All right. I'm here with Jacob Sloan on the Legacy Investor Podcast. Jacob and I have been buds and business partners in many respects. I feel that way for a couple years now. And we go to church together. And Jacob's an agent, but a very investor-friendly, investor-minded agent. And we've done some deals together. And I feel like Jacob just knows what I need in a deal and like just kind of knows what I'm looking for. So he's really good at finding deals, and he's also just a great man and a great husband. So we're just going to chat today, all things money, life, and legacy, maybe marriage. And so let's get going. Just tell us about yourself and like why, or just tell us your story and how you got to be where you are today and what you're doing.
Yeah. Thanks for the intro, man.
Yeah.
I am from Waco, Texas. Come from an amazing family. And I came here to be sitting in this chair. There was a lot of things that happened. Went to Baylor, graduated, did a discipleship program in Branson, Missouri, and then finished that during COVID, like early 2021. Couldn't get a job, and so came back to live with my parents, and didn't want to do that for too long, and so I just stumbled into being a realtor, residential real estate.
Stumbled into it.
Yeah, I had a buddy hook me up with a team here in Waco, and it's funny. I was telling someone the other day. This is kind of an aside, but the first 6 weeks of me working for this real estate company, I think they just actually needed someone to do this, but it was so wise of them. They had me as an ISA, so internal sales agent for the first 6 weeks. So I would get there at 8 a.m. and cold call till 5 p.m.
Nice.
And
Jeez.
It was miserable. So I was not like eased into it at all. I was just kind of, they helped me out and gave me scripts, but I was very much like kind of thrown into the deep end.
Yeah.
And so I remember coming home some nights and just being like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? But that was about 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago now. And so since then have gone independent as an agent and just been able to kind of scale up a business here in Waco, and a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of investors, which is, I enjoy working with all clients, but those have kind of been the two things that I've found a specialty in and have really enjoyed. Got married in January, which is
I was there.
Total game changer. It was a fun time.
Yeah.
And that's been awesome. So about 10 months of that at this point, and we're just getting started.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, tell me what made you. Let's talk to people who are thinking about getting a license. What advice would you give them? Why should they or should not they get a license, and why did you do it?
Yeah. I'll start with the second question. I did it because I didn't necessarily. So I got a degree in real estate and entrepreneurship in college. So I got my license in college just because I didn't really have anything else to do. I was trying to be productive. And so again, just kind of a God thing that I had that. To anybody evaluating getting your license, I would say it's not selling sunset. And so there has been a little bit of glitter thrown on the real estate industry, just with these Netflix shows and social media. It can be a really challenging thing to start in. So I'll typically give somebody the statistics of, it's maybe like a couple digits off, but it's like within the first year, 65% of agents drop out. And then within the first 3 years, I believe it's like 85% of agents don't make it at least 3 years. And so it's because it's strictly commission typically. So it's a really brutal industry to begin in. That being said, I think if you can serve people well and you're good at your job and you enjoy it, if you can make it over kind of the 2-3 year hump, it can be an awesome career. But biggest advice for people starting off is like practically have 6 months of living expenses saved, because that's why most people drop out, is they just assume they're going to get a paycheck within the first 30, 60 days. And sometimes it's 6 months legitimately. And then also just to have the mindset of like learning over income. I think we've talked about that, like the first year or two, like just learn, just get reps, help people out, and trust that it all kind of comes back in the end.
Come on.
Yeah.
Love it. And then you are just starting out as an investor, but you found a lot of deals for other investors. So you can have a deal or two in the back of your mind that you want to talk about. But before we get there, talk about what makes a good deal. When you're looking for other people, whether it's me or someone bigger than me, doing more than me, or someone, that's just starting out, like, what are you looking for?
Yeah. So I think that's a great question. I think it begins with understanding the criteria. So, me, myself as an investor, I'm going to hopefully I will have a pretty specific criteria that I'm looking for. I know you have a criteria. So, it depends on what the end product that investor is wanting looks like. But number one is just to find it undervalued. And so that can be sometimes off market. It's really obvious, where it's just like, dang, this house they're willing and excited to sell it for less than it could probably be worth after renovations. And then also getting creative with like land use and zoning, how you split up the home. I think that's one area that's really fun for me that not all agents kind of have in their brain, is just trying to get creative and like, hey, if we're trying to make the highest and best use of this property, what are some of the outside the box ways that we could go about it?
Yeah.
So that's super fun for me. So like how to kind of a classic example I use is at a friend who was looking for a property close to campus. We found him one undervalued, like just strictly for a single family home, undervalued. But also, I think the seller didn't realize it was zoned for commercial use, so he could Airbnb it. And then they had an additional. If you looked at the legal description, there was 2 lots that the house was sitting on, but then there was a 3rd lot as well. And so, he bought it, renovated it. He's been Airbnb-ing it for about a year and a half. We're currently selling off the additional lot, so he'll make I think $35K off of that. So that's that's a rare example of where you kind of get some different layers of stuff. But it's really like trying to find the thing that everyone else is missing. Because you got to there's so many people looking for deals. Yeah, it's you got to get creative.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, I just interviewed Chris Delanier, and he was like, yeah, it used to be a lot easier 12 years ago. He's like, now there's all these young guns like looking for deals, and real estate became really popular the past 6-7 years. And so yeah, competition is fierce. So on that note, tell me, like, when people are looking for deals, are you finding stuff on market? Obviously you're a retail, listing agent, buying agent, but if someone wants to find a deal, do they need to go off market these days? Is there meat on the bone on market? What are you seeing in real estate right now?
Yeah, totally. So I would say if you can find a deal off market, it's typically going to be better, just because where there's less competition, there's usually, greater profit to be made. On market, I do think there's still deals. I think you got to get creative in strategy. And so that would be short-term rental or like month-to-month rentals is something that I haven't had anybody bite on yet, but I've really been pushing, is like some of these 1-bed, 2-bedroom, really small,
where you can furnish them,
efficiency spaces. What you can get in monthly rent, like the numbers really work. And then, so I think you can get creative with strategy. And then there are still deals. Typically they're going to, go within a day, or they'll have sat for a while and you're just going to make a low ball offer, and 9 times out of 10 they'll say no, but that 10th time, the seller may be willing to sell. And we actually just looked at one the other day.
Where, we can talk about that.
I mean, that was kind of a classic example of, saw it on the MLS, really large square footage footprint, had a back house that wasn't included in the square footage, had a pool, good area, but the house is, I mean, you could tell from the pictures, was just in disrepair. Get to the showing, smells like smoke, smells like animals. No retail buyer is going to pay this. And just because of the deferred maintenance, like it has to, basically an investor is going to have to be the one to buy it. And so, we made a low ball offer, and 5 days later, we're still waiting to hear back. But
we're still waiting because I think it was a trust. I don't know what we're allowed to share, but I'll share. Is like a trust. They got passed down to these 2 kids, and they've lived there for 4 years, and they've just like really torn the place up. And they're listing like really high. I mean, $400,000 house. And it will be a $400,000 house, but not right now. Like you can't, there's like holes in the wall, and a bathroom's completely unfinished, and lots of stuff like that. I'm like, this is a great flip. Also the pool. There's a pool, and it's black. I mean, it's like, it hasn't been used in 4 years. And so Jacob and I offered $285, and we've yet to hear back from them. If you're listening to this podcast,
hopefully we're under
Mr. Seller. But hopefully we'll be under contract. The agent can't get a hold of them. The seller's agent.
She's trying her best.
It's hilarious. But so like, I mean, that was an on-market deal, but obviously we're not going to pay like what is an on-market, we call retail value for that. So low ball, and could be a really good flip. Could make 6 figures on that if we play our cards right. So, all right. And then anything else you wanted to say about agent stuff, deals?
Agent stuff. I was thinking about it before this. I think if you're wanting to be an investor, I was thinking like just big picture, what are bullet points that I've learned so far? And I think it would be get your expenses as low, your living expenses as low as possible. Increase your income as much as possible, which is usually a commission-based compensation model, which would be an agent model. And then learn as much as you can about the space you're trying to invest in. And so when you use that frame, like being an agent can make a ton of sense because you have the capacity to really increase your earnings, and at the same time, I mean, I'm getting to learn with other people's money essentially. And so the pros of that is that I don't lose as much money, but also at some point you got to take the risk to use your own money and gain from the profits. But
that's great. I never thought of it that way. I'm learning, but it's not my money on the line. It's great. And then I'm curious. I'm thinking about getting my license. Not sure. I think I would have saved thousands of dollars if I just had a license, but I'm nervous because I don't want the liability. And there's just especially if I'm wholesaling, it's like, I'm just like nervous of, am I going to get sued or something? What do you think about that? Should investors have a license? Some people think yes, some people think no. What would you say?
Yeah. I think there's 2 points that come to mind. One, to my understanding, as a licensed agent in Texas, you do have to disclose, hey, what is the market value of this property? So if you were doing wholesaling or something like that, if it was to be done ethically, I think it would be to your best knowledge. If you list it on market, after all expenses, here's what you can walk away with. Which I kind of wish, I would hope that most people are doing that, just to give them all the options. But I think that could be, one thing that's added. And then 2, I would say from an agent's perspective, for somebody like you, if you're looking to scale your portfolio and kind of leverage yourself out of the business, then I think it could make a ton of sense to basically leverage out the disposition and the purchasing and the paperwork and all that, and just focus on, maybe what you do best is the deal analysis, making connections,
Right.
expanding the business. So I think some people can get, I'm not saying that's you, but I think some people can get caught in the weeds there. If they see fairly, they'll see the money on the settlement statement and like, dang, I could have saved that much.
Totally.
And it's like, yeah, that's awesome. But at the same time, if you get sucked into the weeds and the paperwork and the day to day, I think there are a lot of things that agents do behind the scenes that would suck the normal investor's time.
Yeah. Especially if they're like hustling and finding deals. And it's like, well, you want to keep doing that more than, the paperwork and everything the agents do behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so good. Okay. And then not every podcast is going to go this direction because not everyone we interview is going to be, a faith-based entrepreneur, but Jacob happens to be. And so I just want to switch gears here a little bit and just ask, like, how has your faith influenced your work? And, obviously we're both young, we're on this journey, we're trying to figure that out. Mm-hmm. And so how has faith in God influenced you? And what are you trying to figure out also? I'm not saying you have it all together. So
no, totally, man. Yeah. I mean, I think it's influenced me hopefully in every way, when you introduce me and you're like, he's a realtor, he's a husband, and he's a good man, like that makes me so happy. And so that's not just to be a good man, but like my desire would be that, speaking of legacy, that when I'm dead, the legacy of Jacob Sloan is Christ glorified in whatever was my life. And so when I look at the intentions of my heart now, it's not like the waters are muddied and we're clearing them out every day.
Yeah, dude.
And there's a lot of self-ambition and, like just ulterior motives in there. But really at the core, like that is my hope is, I believe that, the breath I've been given is from him. Life here and life for eternity is through him, him being Christ. And so if I believe that, then like it's my joy, the selfish ambition in the game of accumulating more and more. There's a Proverbs or a parable in Luke that talks about the man who builds up the storehouses. And so it talks about this guy, he has a great harvest. And so he can't fit all of his grain into his storehouses. So he's like, okay, I'm going to tear down these storehouses and build bigger ones. And when I put all my grain in there, I'll be able to relax and eat and drink for the rest of my life. And the parable goes, that night, the Lord said, your soul is required from you. And basically the dude passes. And so he was, in the midst of trying to expand his own kingdom, and God called him up.
Yeah.
And so, I think through the grace of God, I feel like I have the insight that the end of selfish ambition is not an actually fruitful place and not a place that I want to be. And so I would hope that, the fruit of my life is to his glory.
Yeah.
And something that lasts beyond me and even, beyond this life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's so good. So where's the line between building a storehouse, which I think we're both trying to do. We're trying to build wealth. We're trying to build our net worth. Do you think, what does God think of that? Like, does he want us to have a big net worth, or is he, like, no, stay low, stay poor?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Man, that's so good. And I mean, I've thought about reading that passage before. I've thought about even you and other investors, because investing is accumulating assets that have a high return. And so there's obviously a lot to be said about stewardship there. But man, at the end of the day, I think the cool thing about the Christian faith is that we believe we can have an active relationship with God, and that we can I would say that we can hear God and be directionally influenced by the Spirit of God. And so, dude, I don't know, because right now I'm like, I think there is so much wisdom to be said for delayed gratification and the sacrificing of temporary pleasures here in this moment to invest in assets that would then allow for the freedom of time later. And so probably a lot like you, when I'm 40, I would love to be able to just take the day off and hang out with my kids and play. But I am aware that even like that freedom, like the idealization of that freedom can be an idol.
Yes.
Which is like,
dude,
so scary.
So real. So real.
But I think the piece as Christians is that, like, I would say, and probably hopefully you would say too, that right now we feel called to like the lane that we're in. And I guess it's just a daily surrender of those, that direction, and trusting that, like, if we're ever off or it gets like kind of twisted, that he'll set us straight. Let
it be, Lord. I agree. I think it's just about surrendering every day. Like I think God wants us to grow and wants us to succeed. Like I have 2 kids, one on the way, and like I want my kids to succeed. I want to be able to give them direction. If they ever harden their heart toward me, that would make me really sad. And I feel like God feels the same way, and he wants us to be like surrendered to him. And so like, every house, every car, like we just got this new car. It's literally the coolest car I've ever driven. And because we have a 3rd baby coming, we need to upgrade our car to the 3rd row. My wife doesn't want a minivan. So we've been looking at used Tesla Model X's, and we just got one, and it's so cool. And I love it. It's incredible. But when we got home, we got the kids in there, we're showing them. And then we just like prayed. We're like, Jesus, this car is yours. Use it for your glory. Like, if you ask us to give it away tomorrow, we will. And like, if we wreck it tomorrow, it's okay. Like, we're, just putting our hearts in a good place. And I feel like we have to do that every day, even as we're growing and making decisions on our own. And so anyway, I just think that's really good. And like, you mentioned parables. I thought of the parable of the 1, 5, and 10 talents.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a 10 talent guy, are you stewarding those talents well? What do you think about that?
Well, that's the scary thing about real estate investing too, is like, I mean, total transparency, man. I'm kind of looking at our budget for this year and then next year. And Annie, we haven't talked about this yet. I wanted to confess.
That's his wife.
Oh yeah, that's my wife. I wanted to confess to her. I'm like, because she's in charge of a lot, and I'm kind of in charge of the budget. And I wanted to confess to her. I'm like, Annie, I don't think I or we have been great stewards of our resources this year. And like, a lot of people would look at our life situation and be like, well, you're not in debt. You're living, you can make an argument that you're living within your means. Like, on the surface, everything looks good, but with the knowledge of real estate investing, I'm like, dang, I think we could have scaled back our living expenses a little bit this year, saved a little bit more, and possibly bought a property.
Dang.
And in the end, like, again, if these properties aren't ours, but they're the Lord's, then I wasn't really robbing myself of a property, but I was, in a sense, like, withholding that stewardship from the Lord. And so, I mean, somebody could poke holes in that, but I kind of had a moment the other day where I was like, dang, I think because I know that real estate, strictly financially speaking, can provide really incredible interest and means, in the future.
Yeah.
Like, there is a responsibility that comes with that. Yeah.
Dang. That's good, dude. 2025. Here we go. We're in like December 2024. So 2025, bro. I'm trying to help you get some more units. By the way, Jacob is an investor. He just moved out of his primary residence, rented it out. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Because you're just, yeah.
So, I mean, I preach real estate.
Also, can you share numbers?
Yeah.
Share like what you got the house for, what you did to it, what you rented it out for, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Just so that people know, like if you have, this is a man who, 2-3 years ago, you had no real estate, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, no real estate.
So tell us about the start of your journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything.
So I'll kind of break it down. So around 2 years ago, was in a position where I could buy a house. And that was me putting 10% down. I put a little bit more down because I was 1099, wasn't a salaried employee. So I looked for something with a decent amount of bedrooms because I was single at the time, wanted to have guys live with me. And then I was also like, okay, what's my competitive advantage as a buyer? And it's that I'm from Waco and sketchy is cool with me. and so I bought a property on Hood Street, shout out.
Hood Street.
And so bought this really nice kind of brick 3-bedroom, 2-bath for $190. And the funny thing is, I've kind of joked about this before. It had been on the market for 3 months. The day that I went to put in an offer, they got 3 other offers.
No way.
It was crazy.
What in the world?
And so I think I probably paid more than it was worth, but I say that because real estate is super forgiving. And so you just kind of got to get into the game and it'll be kind. So I bought it at 190. We probably put in, so I house hacked it in the sense that I had guys living with me. I had 4 other guys in that house at one point, 2 guys in a twin bunk beds. It was crazy. But was able to, during that period, my expenses after the rental income was probably $500 a month.
Yes.
Super low.
Love it.
And then
sounds like you gave those guys a good deal.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have been zero.
Oh yeah.
Your living expenses.
No, I liked them,
That's cool.
And so did that. Then I got married. We lived in there a bit, but we'd saved up enough that would be only 3% down payment for the next house.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lord is kind, and we kind of got like access to our dream house off market, just down the street, still in East Waco. So we bought that and rented out our previous home, which I will say it's funny because I see it, talk about it so often. Doing it with your own house is scary. Like for the first time, renting that home to a stranger that, we had lived in, we'd put a lot of money and kind of even sweat equity in. It was scary. But was able to get that rented out. Section 8 actually. So the government is covering probably 85% of the monthly rent, which is nice. Got that rented, moved into this new one. And the cool thing about the new one is there's also a back house that we'll need to renovate, but we can turn into a 3rd unit.
Dude.
And so really, so cool. I mean, it was neat because we were able to get some seller concessions on the purchase of this last house. So we probably brought $12,000 to closing. And, with a little bit of renovating on this back house, that'll give us 2 more units for $12,000.
Love it.
So that was cool. Yeah.
Love it, dude. All right. Success story. There you go. Oh, so rent minus PITI. What are you cash flowing?
On the rental.
Rental.
PITI is around, so it'd be principal, interest, mortgage payments, property taxes, and insurance.
Yeah.
On that house would be around $1,500, and it's rented for $1,750.
There you go.
So cash flowing $250. But the cool thing is we bought it for $190. We put in about $10,000, and already now the house is worth $225, $230.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the real wealth creation is really in the depreciation, principal pay down, the tax benefits.
And we did, so I'll give a shout out to that too. We did a cost segregation on this house.
Sick. Yeah.
And it'll probably, so that's where if you're, probably works a couple different ways. I'm not an accountant, but as a real estate professional, I can do what's called a cost segregation, where they go in and they depreciate the improvements of the home. And it basically just allows us to pay, we'll probably pay like $8,000 less in taxes this year because of that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Come on. Tax benefits are huge. Actually, all the wealthiest people I know, real estate is just the tax benefits game to them. I mean, it becomes way more about taxes when you get to the bigger levels, I've found, which I'm not there yet, so we'll get there. All right. And then what was I going to ask? I'd say let's just go to legacy. What are you going for? You know, Jacob, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5, even 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 20 years? We've talked about this. You know, you got a lot of big stuff on the horizon. So where do you see yourself, and what kind of a legacy do you want to leave for your kids? You know, even while you're alive, you know, what kind of a legacy are you trying to build?
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Man, when I think about it, it's gotta be, you know, we're all talking about this through a business lens, but you know, when you think about like the eulogy, like when you die, nobody's going to talk about how many units you had.
So true.
And so,
yeah,
my legacy really, I hope, is the man I'm formed into through Christ. And so, and that, I think, will probably, if I stay in the business world, will probably be manifested and seen most in the business world. So that could be discipline and diligence, the way I love employees and tenants, the way generosity, like the way I give. So yeah, I think I would, I mean, future business wise, would love to do more investing, kind of scale up the number of units, do some flips next year, do some holds. And then I really want to build out, for business reasons and for like relational impact, I really want to build out a real estate team. And I don't know quite what that looks like, but I'll probably begin to figure that out next year.
Do you want to have a brokerage?
I don't think I want to have a brokerage, because that's where all the liability comes in. But I think I do want to have a team at some point. And truly, like, financially, it doesn't make that much sense. But for the impact, like, if you're a team lead, the way I would see it is I'm basically just discipling and like improving these people's lives. Like I would love to take it from a holistic approach, like kind of like try to be more of a life coach than just a business mentor. So yeah, I think by nature I'm lean towards selfishness, and like I want to focus on my own stuff. And so I've kind of felt that lately, that impact always involves other people, you know? And so like trying to figure out how I can include other people into what I'm trying to do.
Love it, dude.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, dude, if Jacob's trying to include you, if you didn't hear that. So if you want to be included in Jacob's team, or even just like follow along with him, where can people reach you? And I did have one more question after that, but tell us where we can reach you.
I'm most active on the social medias at Instagram. Sales by Sloan is the handle. And then on Facebook, I have a new website that I paid a lot of money for. So that's salesbysloan.com. It's really pretty. And then, I would say, like, if you're in Waco and interested in real estate or business, or that's what I love about Waco, is you can just feel like there's so much room for connection and people helping each other out. And so if I can help you at all, like whether that's buying, selling, or just like being a part of the journey, reach out to me.
Yeah.
And I'd love to help.
Dude, I know that you you told me, and you even mentioned it here, that a huge part of that those first couple of years, I think it was 2020 and 21, you were reading a ton, just like absorbing as much as you could. What would you say? Give us a few books, a few podcasts that have had the most influence on you and that people should get into.
Yeah. This won't be an exhaustive list because I'm kind of working off what comes to the top of mind first, but real estate, the Burr book is awesome.
Oh, David Green?
Yeah.
Or mine. Just kidding.
Cameron, free ebook.
I do have an ebook about Burr, but it's not. It's good, but it's not a book.
I really like. It's also a Bigger Pockets Connection, but Set for Life is Scott Trench.
Yeah.
And it's a great book for just a young person looking at financials holistically. And then I'm trying to give a faith book. There's a book called Humility by Andrew Murray.
Yeah.
Have you read that?
Yeah. It's good.
Dense. It will wreck you.
Yeah.
I mean, so good. I try to read it often because I need it. And then let's see if anything else. Deep Work is kind of a random one.
Yeah, Cal Newport.
That because we're so distracted, and especially as an entrepreneur, there's so much going on. I think learning how to do deep work has been really important for me. Yeah.
It's good.
What are yours? Are you gonna...
Oh man, but I saw you reading Hormozi's book. You actually told me to get it, and I got $100 million leads. That's a good one.
It is good.
Gosh, I would say the biggest influence for me has been Bigger Pockets, Pace Morby. I'm in his mentorship group, Sub 2, and Pace has been really influential on me. In fact, he's probably mostly the reason that I started this podcast.
Let's go, Pace.
So Pace, come on the pod, dude. We'll get you on here someday. Graham Stephan was hugely. I actually found Graham because I'm already mentioned like a Tesla fanboy, and so I found Graham through this video he did on his Tesla, and then I discovered that he actually, is a smart guy and knows a lot about real estate too. So shout out Graham Stephan. All right, Jacob Sloan. Anything else you want to share, dude? Anything else we didn't hit on?
What's your relationship to have you done well with Tesla stock?
I don't have any stock.
Okay.
But I know, I think I can say it. My dad does. My dad bought it really low, like pretty darn low. And I think he's, I don't know, 20 times his money. I don't have any Tesla stock.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not much of a day trader. But I got Apple when it's pretty low though, like a few years, 4 or 5 years ago. All right.
Got nothing.
Dude,
thanks.
It's great to have you, Jacob. Reach out to Jacob on Instagram if you want him to represent you as an agent, or if you just want to connect. Also, investors. He's a great guy to talk to about pulling comps, getting ARVs. He'll do it for you. And love to have you on, Jacob. We'll see you later.
It's fun. How long was that?